Hi everyone, and welcome to Mobile Solutions for Oracle Forms, the art of the possible. I'm thankful today to be joined by Suhas Ulliyar, VP of Mobile Product Management Strategy at Oracle, to discuss mobilizing Oracle Forms.
Pace and velocity at which we can deliver these mobile apps to the end users. So the whole challenge is, how do we do this in a fast and cheap way without having to take on the burden of high cost and the manageability of the solutions. So what are some of the use cases we are seeing in the enterprise, specifically with Forms customers? So we're seeing quite a big uptake in retail warehousing, where it's all about using fast scanners to enter items or look at physical inventories or to insert products and orders. For the field service organization, for the field technicians or the supervisors to get real-time access to work order information and to be able to update them remotely, as well as work effectively in a mobile environment where you do have the harshness of the network, the availability of the network, perhaps the speed and latency, as well as being able to augment the application with data that's coming from multiple sources like a location information, married that with your Forms information. For sales, ensuring that the sales team has the 360-degree view of getting all the information, getting the mobile catalog in their hands, and really sort of look at mobile being an avenue to increase revenues. For internal use cases, we're seeing a lot of HR-based applications for self-service, be it approvals or doing time reporting or looking at employee benefits, vacation requests, etc. And for operations is to modernize back office operations such as procurement, inventory, etc. At the same time, this whole move towards mobile and mobile first is also driving some very unique use cases where customers are developing and building some unique mobile applications. And so our goal with this webcast is to really educate you on sort of what is the art of possible with Oracle Forms, what are some of the use cases that you could perhaps think about to modernize your employee base, and perhaps even make it accessible to your customers, and also talk about an approach where you can think about innovating and building applications to sort of get into the digital age. So we want to start with a customer case study with the New York Metropolitan Transport Authority. And these are the folks that really manage the bridges and tunnels in the New York metropolitan area. And for those either that are in that area or visited New York and the suburbs, you probably know that anytime there is any level of accident that occurs either in the tunnel or on the bridge, the domino effect of traffic and the ensuing chaos that occurs is pretty bad. And so what New York MTA wanted to do was to really look at modernization of their collision accident reporting system. They call it CARS, pun intended. The idea was that today a lot of these accidents on the bridges and tunnels are very classical, sort of paper pen and sent to some central system where someone's sitting there and then typing that all back in, and again available only on the desktop. There was a lot of customization and a lot of logic that has gone into developing this platform using Oracle Forms 10. And what New York MTA was really looking at is, how do we leverage and gain more out of this backend systems instead of trying to now migrate or build yet another system of record or modernize that. And so when we discussed the modernization of Forms with them, they were really excited. But as we were going through the use case definition, some things that came to bear was certainly, it was important to get the right user experience for the folks that are managing the bridges and tunnels, especially in harsh conditions like, winter time or when it's raining or snowing. Plus the fact that, they are in certain remote areas or in places where there is no network connectivity. And really to sort of get the real proof of what was going on, so they could then from a legal perspective be able to sift through those cases in a really fast way. So what we did is essentially a lot of you probably know sort of what the screen on the left looks like. This is your classic sort of forms application that they built, and what our goal was to modernize that so we could bring in not only a more modern UI and an experience that we all currently are very used to using with our smartphones on iOS or Android or Windows Surface tablets, and be able to incorporate and integrate this with mobile-first features like location services, push notifications, with offline working. So no matter where they are able to collect this information, being able to interact with content and media, so being able to take a picture of the collision or scan a driver's license and being able to simplify and speed up the time it takes to process these sort of accidents. So here's some quick screenshots of sort of what this app looked like from going from the forms to a more modern architecture. And so I think the best way to sort of talk about this is to show you this application. So I'm going to have Mia come back and just talk through the use of this application, and I'll come back and talk about what we did to build this. So Mia, if you want to go ahead.
Great. So this is the application. Basically, they log in using username and password, and they choose which facility they're going to work on, which bridge or which tunnel. Then, if they have connectivity, they're going to be able to see their positioning on the map. And if not, they could choose using the drop-down lists. And what's really fun is they actually have the same user experience as they did with the clipboard by using the Samsung S Pen, where they could use the writing and the usability, but it actually converts their text into, text box based writing. And they step through the application to really jot down what happened in the accident. Were there any factors that contributed to the accident? Who were the drivers? Whereas all of these were fields on the original form system as well. But then we were able to stretch the application beyond the regular desktop application by incorporating images of the crash. So here we're able to take images of what happened in the field, and not only take images, but actually annotate those images. Again, by using this Oracle mobile framework with Samsung, you're able to jot down actually annotations on the images, and these images are stored directly into Oracle's mobile cloud storage. So we don't even need to blow up the database and save them there. And then we simply click sync. And what this does is it goes to the Oracle form system to try to save the data. And we see here that there was an error message because we forgot to enter a plaza lane, which was a required field in the form system. And here we edit, we add the required field, and then we simply go back and save it. And now when we try to sync once again, we see that the collision has been synced successfully. So now it is able to save in the form system. That action of syncing actually goes through Oracle Mobile Cloud Service to AuraPlayer and runs the Oracle form system that sits on-premise. So nothing, this did not require any redevelopment or migration of the form system. It's actually running the form system on-premise from Oracle's mobile cloud from the device. And that's what we're going to talk about today, how to achieve that type of cutting-edge mobile front end on your Oracle Forms back end.
Great, thanks, Mia. So Mia mentioned a bunch of products and components in that demo. So let's talk a little bit about what it took to build this application, and then we will go through each of these components in a little bit more detail. We did partner with Samsung. Oracle has a very good partnership with Samsung, and Samsung was involved in bringing in their tablets with rugged features on it, because of course it was important, given the harsh conditions, to ensure that the devices were rugged to the point that it could withhold, drops and harsh conditions like very cold, so you don't have to, take a glove off your hand or your Now, some of the other features as part of the device itself was, as Mia demonstrated, was the S Pen, which is again very critical to be able to quickly jot down these notes instead of typing that in. and being able to take and integrate it with the device, with the camera features, the GPS features, etc. Now, the application was built using Oracle's mobile application framework. It's a declarative 4GL tool, drag and drop, to build your client-side interfaces that does allow you to work in an offline mode, integrate with device features like we just talked about, handle push notifications, etc. And this tool allows you to build an application once and run across multiple device types and device OSs, then we support iOS, Android, and Windows 10. Integrated to that is our Oracle Mobile Cloud Service. This is sort of, in the industry parlance of mobile, is referred to as mobile backend as a service. And what that does is basically provides the shaping of APIs between what AuraPlayer sends to us and what is consumed by the mobile device. It has mobile-first services, so microservices to handle things like offline data sync, so we don't have to sit there and manage a database of data in the cloud and then on the device. It's all based on the mobile architectures around REST JSON services, handles push notifications through integrating with Apple and Google, handles image storage. As you saw in that example, the police officers were taking pictures of the collision, and but there was no place to actually store it in the forms application. So we provided a JSON-based image storage where you could temporarily store those images, and in MTA's case, that would be temporary until they figure out where they want their content to be stored. But again, that service is a pretty open storage service where you can store any kind of content integrated with single sign-on and use of the analytics. And we'll talk about this in more detail. And then what AuraPlayer's component was to essentially make it very simple without any complex changes or any changes at all to the forms application to easily sort of convert using wizards from form to REST, and then the MCS connector that takes this REST APIs and makes it useful for mobile consumption. So what were the benefits of the solution? Certainly for the officers, they were spending less time at the scene of the incident, as well as they could actually get their job done without having, in any type of harsh conditions. They didn't need this whole bank of people re-entering data, so there was a lot of quickness, a real-time nature of processing the data. They were able to get more, I would say, context-specific data with more proof, if you like, that made you know, the whole court system process, the prosecutor's process, a little bit more easier than trying to decipher what was written on this form that was, you know, perhaps wet due to the rain or whatever else. And for them, what was very critical was, again, being able to use and leverage all their investments in the forms and have a common set of user interfaces now on the desktop as well as mobile. And one thing key about what we're going to talk about is, while this is all related to mobile, you could get the same experiences on your desktop if you wanted to modernize your web-based applications using the same infrastructure here that we're talking about. So with that, I'm going to hand it to Mia to talk a little bit about where we are with Oracle Forms today and the need to modernize it.
Hi. So as most of you know, I'm sure, for joining this session, Oracle Forms has been around for probably over 2 decades. It is the original product used to enter data into the database and, of course, query data from the database. Now, Oracle's done an incredible job of keeping the product around and kind of each version moving along with the time. So it started character mode, moved to client server with kind of window-based widgets, and then right now, of course, we're running through a browser with a Java applet that is downloaded to the client, and in 12c we don't even need to run browser-based. It could run fully as a Java application. And we know as well that these applications were built a very long time ago, and a lot of them are kind of in maintenance mode. There were a lot of rumors a few years ago about the demise of Forms for whatever reason, but what's very important now is that Next slide. Oracle has expressed a complete renewed commitment to Oracle Forms. Oracle Forms 12c came out in October with over 50 new features, which is probably more features than the previous 3 versions put together. Michael Ferrante, the Oracle Forms product manager, is doing an incredible job of getting lots of support to put new features into the product, to look at options for running forms on the cloud, improved security, performance, new things with browserless running of forms. And there is premier support for Oracle Forms into 2023, but he's also working on the next version, which is also another 8 years of premier support. So I was assured by a VP of development that I will probably retire before Oracle Forms. So, you know, now is the time for the Forms users to really start looking at how they could take this existing investment and leverage it into the next generation. Don't keep this Oracle Forms application sitting on the sidelines, but let's start moving it and, you know, future-proofing these forms systems. So that's when we get into the art of the possible. What could we actually do with this investment? So the first thing when I say, you know, what do you need to be doing in mobile with Oracle Forms? Everybody's answer is always, we don't need mobile for our form system. The system is a maintenance system, a statistics system. It only does logging or recording or records. And then when I start digging a little deeper, I understand that it's actually recording, right, collisions that are happening in the bridges and tunnels. It's actually logging summons that are being delivered door to door by process servers. It's actually recording shipments that are going out in the trucks in the field, right? And the more you kind of dig in, you realize that the data entry going into the form system is actually happening in the field, right? People are writing things on clipboards with pen and paper. People are printing out shipping slips and work orders and then following through when they could easily be doing this on a tablet with directions and getting the addresses on mobile devices, right? There's huge paper trails and organizations of things that people could be doing direct data entry into a mobile, into the form system, right? Companies have huge call centers of customers calling in just to get statuses of things, right? And if you could provide customer-facing apps where a customer could just check in, what is the status of their loan? What is the status of a credit card application, or things of that nature? And of course, things with signature panel, right? It's actually very funny. We were talking to a law office where they were saying that when they actually do process serving, to have the ability of doing a digital signature for each process server record that was done, that they could actually capture that signature as an image and put it into the cloud, would really revolutionize the whole industry for them of actually servicing these process servers. So although we think in our mind it's just storing records, the more we think about it, these records are actually being generated in the field. So these are some of the possibilities for mobile with Oracle Forms. Next. So the next question is, well, if I've decided that I want to go mobile, right, why don't I just redevelop the forms into Java or redevelop them and put, you know, the code into the database and kind of just build a system from scratch, right? The truth is that redevelopment of Oracle Form systems is actually quite a project unto itself. Redeveloping the form systems, because the UI and the code and the triggers are actually all embedded as one object, this is a project that could take years or many months. It is a significant development effort, okay? And not only is it risky, because it kind of jeopardizes the stability of the existing application, you have to reverse engineer the application. You have to put some of the code in the database, some into Java. It's not always possible to do this reverse engineer. Some of the developers may not be there. They might have retired, right? The documentation is not always readily available. And once you've done that, you actually are then maintaining 2 separate systems, right? You might have the form system for the desktop, a separate mobile application that has to be synchronized for any changes. If you're redeveloping, it was going to require a significant QA of this new system, and of course performance testing. So the time to market of this type of system is going to be something that is radically different than if you could do what we do with this joint solution, which is called enabling forms. It's taking the existing form and wrapping it in such a way that it could be run from a mobile device without needing to redevelop it. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Next slide. So we're not talking about, this is probably the most important thing we're going to say today. When we talk about running forms on a mobile, we're not talking about actually taking the existing Oracle form and running it on a tablet, right? And how could we jam it into the screen? If we did, we couldn't actually check the check boxes. There would be huge scroll bars. It would not be very usable to the end user. They couldn't use swipe and drag. And of course, it would need a persistent connection to the server, where if at all there was no connectivity, the form server, of course, would crash the application. We're talking about running the business on the mobile. Okay, understanding what we have in the Oracle form system, what is our business process, and then we take that same business process, the data that's entered and the data that's queried, and mobilizing it using the best of the mobile world has to offer. So if we have an address in forms, we're going to show it on a map with directions. If we have a phone number, we could dial out the phone number. If we have an address, we can send an email. If we have a table of numbers, we could show it graphically. So it's the same business process. It's serving the same users and the same job role, but you're doing it using the best the mobile application has to offer. Next slide. So our biggest challenge is, now that we've decided that we want to go mobile with forms, we have to actually figure out how do we bridge the gap of these two worlds, right? We have this legacy application with our business logic where we don't exactly want to do our redevelopment, and we have this new cutting-edge user experience that we would like to achieve with push notifications. Maybe we need offline abilities. Of course, we want a secure application. We want the ability to work offline. So how are we going to build these modern mobile-first applications on top of our legacy desktop forms applications?
Thanks, Mia. So to everyone on the call, what if I told you that you could do this currently and mobilize any of your core processes without changing a single line of forms code, and even perhaps not even requiring you to develop any line of code for a mobile app? So let's show you. We'll show you how this can be done. So what is the solution? So as we talked about for the New York MTA, there are two components that make up the solution: the Oracle Mobile Cloud Service from Oracle, and AuraPlayer from Mia's organization. And what AuraPlayer does is essentially exposes the forms, connects to the forms application and exposes them as web services without writing any line of code. And this happens through a wizard-based development tool. Again, it's point and click, drag and drop, no coding required whatsoever, and also no redevelopment on the Oracle form system. And we'll show you a demo of this right after a few more slides. On the mobile cloud service, it is what I mentioned earlier as an enterprise-grade mobile backend service in the cloud. And the whole idea behind mobile cloud service was to expose all these REST interfaces they're really designed for mobile-centric applications, so we can handle intermittent connections. We need light, low payloads that can make the user experience that much more faster and richer. And so what Oracle Mobile Cloud Service is a mobile API catalog of services that basically contain all these services that are exposed from AuraPlayer and services that are coming from any third party. This could be your location-based services. Let's say you were doing any applications that require payment in the field, or you were doing more richer applications using locations like beacons, and so you wanted to manage the beacons and be able to engage with the customer based on beacons. In fact, we're working with one customer in the mining space where they have beacons as part of every miner that goes into the shaft, and so we know exactly sort of where they are at any given time. So all of this basically are exposed where you can mash up the data coming from your enterprise systems as well as systems of record that you probably don't own, like location services or social networking or content, and mash them up in a very simple way using JavaScript technology and expose them for the mobile client developer to consume. On top of it, one of the core tenets of mobile cloud services, we have deep analytics that allow you to measure things like, what is the application performance, what is the speed of the application, because ultimately, if the application is slow or or crashing, your employees will stop using it, and it gets even worse if you are planning to expose these applications to your consumers. So understanding diagnostics, understanding where is the needle in the haystack here when there's a problem, understanding sort of service usage, and then getting into more business analytics around how many users are using my application, how often are they using it, when they use the application, where do they spend most of their time, and then that's useful information to further fine-tune your application. So for instance, if it takes 10 steps to order a product, are there ways that we can fine-tune that into 2 perhaps? Are there more context or mobile-first context-driven services that can perhaps help reduce the amount of steps it takes to perform any action? And then of course, in adding built-in mobile-first services, we call the mobile microservices for things like push notifications. So I have a new work order, or my work order information has changed. Let me in real time push that to my folks in the field. Or if I want to do a new pick and publish in my warehouse, I want to change the sequence of my orders. I want to be able to push that information out or push approvals out. We talked about offline data sync, as in I don't have network connectivity, but I still want to work in an effective offline mode. So there's a lot of these mobile services that are built into the mobile cloud service, along with tools that allow you to build your mobile applications, whether you're a developer who wants to build using you're leveraging your Java skills or using your JavaScript skills, or you want to build native, or perhaps you want to build this application without writing any line of code. So we'll show you some examples of that as we move along. So what's in the mobile cloud platform? There are 3 components to it. We have tools for cross-platform mobile application client development. So this is where you write once and you run across multiple platforms, iOS, Android, and Windows. We actually just announced Windows yesterday, in fact, so I have to modify the slides to now include Microsoft. We have 2 tools in that space. We have a tool called Mobile Application Framework, MAF, which was used by the team to build out the New York MTA use case. And that's a declarative 4GL tool for building applications, leveraging your skill sets in Java. And we also open sourced a tool called the JavaScript Extension Toolkit. We call it JET. And JET is really targeted at more of these web-based developers who are building mobile apps. And so their skill sets tend to be more in HTML5, JavaScript, and CSS. So we are looking at sort of balancing both these worlds of the traditional Java developer and the more sort of web-based JavaScript developer. The one thing I did want to point out here is that our approach, and one of the big differentiators with Oracle Mobile Cloud Service, is that we are very open and agnostic to the client tools that you would want to use to build your mobile apps. So if you prefer to use native development, so native to either iOS using Swift or Xcode, or use Java for Android, or .NET or Xamarin, or Sencha for JavaScript, or if you want to use any sort of JavaScript frameworks like perhaps Ionic or React.js or React Native, we treat all of them as first-class citizens as part of Mobile Cloud Service, and we have SDKs that we own we own, develop, and support to help you build your client apps the way you would like it. But as I said, we have our own, and then and to the extreme right, you see the Mobile Application Accelerator. Gartner refers to this term called RMAD, which stands for the Rapid Mobile Application Development. So this is a set of tools. It's also called sort of low-code, no-code development for the so-called citizen developer. So this is the group of developers or folks that are not using core development tools but would still like to build mobile apps. And this is a trend we're seeing in the enterprise, because as we look at the volume and portfolio of mobile apps that customers are trying to build for the enterprise, the challenge is for IT is to keep up with the demand and the pace and the velocity at which these apps are being built. So we see sort of two groups or categories of apps. One that does not require too much coding and that can be simply drag and drop, point and click, and build some simple apps. And of course, you still need your developers for some of these very complex apps. But what's common across both of these patterns is mobile cloud service that simplifies all the heavy lifting that occurs in mobile app development. As I mentioned earlier, I've been doing mobile app development coming to my 19th year this year. And one thing that has, over the period of time, a mobile client development has gotten a lot more easier. You have kids coming out of high school now building mobile apps using, either native or JavaScript tools. But what has continued to become more complex is the ease at which you can integrate your mobile apps into the backend. So, for example, in this context, forms, or you have other backend applications, and the security around it, the single sign-on capabilities. So these, I've sort of said that, 80% of any mobile application, the cost, resource, or time is spent trying to wire your UI into the back end and make that user experience much more effective for mobile. And that's what we attempted to solve with mobile cloud service in this creating this enterprise-grade MBAS that provides a mobile API catalog of REST services, provides all the security, integration, including authentication, authorization, federation, built-in mobile services to really enable these apps to be mobile-first applications, and an analytics to really determine what is the effectiveness of me going mobile. So, in the whole space of sort of making it simple, and the tagline that we use nowadays is our goal is to help you build better apps faster. And one of the very unique, very exciting product that we're going to be releasing next month is sort of the mobile app accelerator. And this is, as I said, the codeless tool for the business analyst or the citizen developer. It's a complete browser-based development tool, no coding required whatsoever. Literally drag and drop and point and click and bind this to business services which come from your Forms application. No emulators required, so none of this nonsense of installing different emulators for different types of OS or device types. You can preview your app and inline in the browser itself and edit, test, publish everything from the browser without ever having to go outside of that. And we'll show you a quick demo of that. So what are the quick steps to success with Oracle Forms? First is your business process user experience, so identifying which forms, which business process you want to mobilize, defining the end user experience and creating a storyboard, setting up the platform with AuraPlayer to go quickly expose these forms, again, without impacting the forms or without changing anything whatsoever there. Exposing them as services that are consumed into Oracle Mobile Cloud Service. From there, we further shape it from mobile-centric use cases, either reducing the amount of load we want to send, payload, or mashing that up with other REST APIs that are coming either from the Forms source or coming from different system of record or different mobile services. And the third, of course, is using the toolkit to build the client-facing apps that then consume the services that we've exposed. So with that, we're going to get into a quick demo. First, what we're going to do, we're going to do this demo in 3 steps. Mia is going to walk you through the AuraPlayer wizard that's going to show you how to take an existing Forms application and expose them as services. And then I'm going to show you a couple of backends where the mobile cloud service to consume the services, show some analytics, and then I'll show you the Max application. Gives us Max application to demo the UI. So Mia, here we go. Create an Oracle form service.
Okay, great. So basically, we're going to step through. This is the AuraPlayer Service Manager. It's actually a Java application that is installed either on WebLogic, or it could be installed on Oracle's Java Cloud Service as well. So we start by signing in. The username password could be, it's just a role in WebLogic as well. And these are the web services that have been already recorded, but we are going to record a new one today. So we simply click on the green plus sign and we give a logical name. So today we're going to do get customer details, and we paste the Oracle Forms URL. The minute we do that, the Oracle Forms system is going to be run with the AuraPlayer toolbar that is going to be recording the business process that we are going to convert. So basically, we're going to first decide what is our microservice, what is the use case that we'd like to expose to mobile, and now we're going to do that business process in the form system with AuraPlayer tracing our steps. So we're going to input the username, password, and log in. Any data we input become input parameters to our web service that will be dynamically entered. Any key presses, any menu items chosen, any toolbar buttons pushed, F keys, all of those are going to be captured as part of the service to be played back later. So we do an enter query, and now we're going to get the customer details by customer ID. So we're going to enter a customer ID number, and we're going to do an execute query. And then we're going to be able to capture the data from this screen in order to put a new mobilized front end of that parameter form to get the customer details. And now I'd like to capture all the fields on the screen. So I click the Capture Parameters button, and that will capture all the fields on this screen as output parameters that will be available to me in our new mobile screen that we will build on this Oracle Forms business process. So now I click Save and Edit when I'm happy with my business process. This was quite a simple one, but we've done business processes 25 forms long. As you can see, the forms URL is editable, so you could actually record on production and then on test, and then play back on production. As long as it's the same FMX, you could play back on different environments without a problem. And right now, it's going to create you a web service that has the input parameters that we entered, so username, password, and customer ID. And it will have the output parameters that we captured from that screen. So we have here that we see the ID as it appears in the forms system. So that's the S customer state, the field name as it appears on the screen, so that's the label, and we're going to check this checkbox because we'd like to return multiple orders. The checkbox denotes that those should be in a table, so it's multiple orders for every one customer. And then we click Save Changes, and that is that. We have now created a REST and SOAP service that will take those three input parameters and return to you the customer and order details based on a customer ID. Okay, as you saw, it required no changes in the form. You don't even need to touch the FMB. This could be done on purely ISV or software vendor products because you only could build it using the FMX. And this is a completely generic web service. Okay, there's no AuraPlayer code here. So what's the beauty of the solution is, if today you build an app using Oracle Mobile Cloud Service and Oracle Mobile Framework based on an AuraPlayer web service, tomorrow if you swap out forms, you could put a Java or database web service, and everything you've built using AuraPlayer will still continue to run. Okay, so it's a phased migration of the front end. Here we have a tester where you could actually place a username, password, and customer ID. When I click Test Service, it actually goes to the WebLogic server and returns to me the data from our service. Here it's an XML form, but as we can see, it actually runs the forms system in the backend on the fly. So if I choose a different customer and I test the service, it's going to have the different customer data. Now we have the Sweet Rock Sports. And if I put a customer, for instance, that doesn't exist, and I try to test the service, I'll see that I get the FRM error, query caused no records to be retrieved. So AuraPlayer returns the error messages, the pop-up messages, the status bar messages, and it's actually running the Oracle Forms FMX on the server from a REST service. This REST service, you take the URL and you could plug it into mobile cloud and build it like any other mobile application.
Perfect. Thank you, Mia. I'm going to now jump into mobile cloud service here now, and I'm going to go to a real, I've got two mobile cloud service instances here. I want to show you the one that we use for New York MTA. We did not want to show the forms for New York MTA, of course, for legal reasons and for customer reasons. So I'm going to show you this quickly and show you sort of the analytics around this. So first, actually, let me show you the application. So we have this concept called a mobile backend, and the mobile backend essentially is all the backend services for a specific UI application. So a mobile client has a mobile backend. A mobile backend in turn uses APIs and connectors that, of course, can be shared. And the mobile backend that I'm going to pick for this instance, hopefully it's not going to time out. No, it's not. That's good. And I'm going to select the MTA one. So let me just type in MTA. And when I open that, I can see all the APIs that are currently used in the system. So this is the New York MTA app. And when I look at that MTA app, these are all the services that were surfaced up from Mia's application. So the get collisions, facilities, locations, geolocation, etc. That's all sort of built into the sort of consumed from the recording that you just saw earlier from the AuraPlayer. And over here we have all the platform APIs to handle user management, so we can easily, without writing any code or without requiring any inputs, manage all the users, manage all the devices they have, so we know how to notify them. The offline processes, the app policies, analytic collectors, that's all sort of built into the system in itself. Now, what I want to quickly show here is, again, the analytics around this. So I'm just going to click on the analytics and look at my dashboard. So this gives me my dashboard of all the current users in the system, or the active users, sessions per day. I can drill into a lot more detail there. In the interest of time, I'm just going to select, for example, specific events. And in the events, I'm going to go select, if I just go back to this, and select again, the MTA app here. And let's type in MTA. And we can essentially instrument any kind of events that are going on here. We basically instrumented anytime there was a collision sync failed or collision sync happened. So I can look at all the times the collision synced okay without any issues. I change my parameters that. I can group that by facility and see, you know, which areas had less network connectivity. As a result, I had to work in an offline mode. So I can look very easily and again do a mixture of different types. I can also filter by different properties like location or client or like operating system, or I can create my own custom properties. In this case, we just use the facility as a custom property. So let's look at anything where we had a sync failed. And again, we can do this now based on that. We had two properties. We can look by facility, and then we can filter this also by failure reason. And we can look at all these failure reasons, the classic FRM that Mia just showed you. I can look at sort of how many occurrences we had of this specific error, or I can group by different types of capabilities. So I want to do a quick sort of overview of how the mobile backend service looks. But I want to go back to sort of my development environment that I tend to use, just to show you a very quick view of sort of what is a user experience of a mobile developer. So here I have a bunch of different backends. I have a field service one for field technicians. I can look at sort of the state of my service, how it's been running. This is my development environment, so I don't let anyone touch it, so not much going on today. And I look at sort of more details of a service. And it is the same thing that you saw earlier. The whole point here being that as a mobile developer, what I'm dealing with is just the API. So for here, let's say I want to go and look at this incident report, and I just add that. Now that is automatically added to my API catalog. And if I wanted to find out and at this point, I, as a mobile developer, have no idea where the data is coming from. By this time, I've completely abstracted it out of my system of record, which form, which business process. I'm just dealing with this entity. It's called incident report. So if I just click on an incident report, it then gives me all my endpoints that I'm dealing with. Same exactly. We take the WSDL or the REST services that Mia exposed, and we shape this further. And if I wanted to see how this works, I can just click on test endpoint, and here's sort of my JSON payload that I get, and this is sort of what I would then use to map that to my UI. So, you know, very, very simplistic way of how we make it easy for mobile developers to build applications. So I'm just going to stop there for this, and then jump to a quick demo of Mobile Application Accelerator. So what we did was Mia showed you how to integrate with the forms and use that to expose the services. In Mobile Cloud Service, this is sort of where we mash up those services, expose them as abstract services, to show you the analytics. And now I'm going to talk about how I build the UI front end. So this is Mobile Application Accelerator. So I'm going to start with building a new application. I'm going to give it a name. I'll call it iFixItFast Supervisor app. So think about this as there's a field technician app that I've built, and now I'm a supervisor who wants to build an app, or wants an app that shows me a dashboard of how my incidents are going on in real time and how my service technicians are performing. So I'm going to start building this app very quickly. And the idea behind Max was to use much of like a PowerPoint type of a user experience where, for instance, you know, like in a PowerPoint, you have a blank template and then you have predefined templates. In exactly the same way, we have like a blank template. We have templates with tabs, or a template with bottom tabs or screen pages. And of course, you can add your own templates. We can surface in pretty much any HTML or JavaScript interface that you build and make it mobile-centric here. So let's pick one for a screen title with tabs, and we'll change the name here. We'll call it incidents, and I'll start with a dashboard and a summary. So literally you see, as I type in, you see this modifications happening. So for those who remember WYSIWYG, what you see, what you get, we're back to that now in the mobile world. Now, so I've created my first screen and just defined the template. Now I can define what my content looks like in my first screen, either a list view or a page view or a form, but I want something with dashboards in there. So I'm going to select a dashboard, and I'm now going to start building it. So again, this is all in my browser. In case you don't believe me, here's my browser address. So this is all happening within the browser. My emulator is built into the browser itself. On the left, I have all my components and my property sheet on the right. And if I wanted to see how my app would look currently I'm in the portrait mode. If I want to see how the app would look in a landscape mode, or if I want to sort of say this is an iOS, what would the app look like in Android? So again, all these skins and everything are built into this. Again, it's write once, run anywhere. And again, you know, I can literally see as I'm building the app. So what I want to do here is I've got my dashboards and I've got my summary. It's pretty blank. So let's go ahead and try and build a quick app here in about 2 minutes. So I've got this concept of a tile here, and I've got one tile here. What I want to do is have this tile to have 3 components to it, showing my state of my current incident as high, medium, low. So I'm going to go to this tile, and I'm going to sort of make it a 2 by 1. I'm going to increase the width, and then I'm going to make it a 3 by 3, so I can now have high, medium, low, and I'm going to call this my incident, if I can type, incident metrics, and I'm going to sort of center the title. And then I'm going to go back to my dashboard and create a new tile, and here I want to have my technician metrics like a graph. I'm going to go there, and I'm going to call this my technician metrics, and I'm going to center that. So I've got sort of some places where I can now start drag and dropping my components. So I have my component board here. So I'm going to take this label as a metric, and I'm just going to drag and drop that onto the 3 sort of plus signs I have there. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to now start designing the property sheet, come to my label and say I want this to be now low. I'm going to change this to green. I'm going to pick this other label and call it medium, leave the color as same, and I'm going to go select this label and call it high and make the color red. Okay, so I just defined sort of what my frame would look like. Now what I want to do is I want to come to my tech metrics and I'm going to drag and drop a chart. Now various options of the kind of charts I have here. And again, this is something that you can add to the list as well, and we'll continue to add. So I'm just going to go and drag and drop a line chart over here. So look at the property sheet for that. So right now it's designed a vertical one. I can go horizontal. So I click on horizontal. Literally I can see as I'm sort of selecting these different display properties. So if I wanted something like a polar coordinates, I can select that and see how that would look on the screen. So right now I'm going to pick a vertical drop, make the line smooth, define some markers, and I can come and further modify the legend and the titles here. So right now I have my legend showing on the right-hand side of the chart. I can make that on the top. Let's get rid of this title here because I already got the title there. And so now I've sort of defined what my wireframe should look like. So now what I can come and do is I can say, okay, now let's go and add some data to this. So I've defined this. I haven't defined a summary yet. I'll come to that in a minute. So I can come to my data portion over here on my property sheet. And I have two ways on how I can provide data. I can provide some fixed value where, just if I wanted to share this application with the business, get some feedback, and I don't want to do all the integration, I can just come and say, give some hard code value there, and I can show that on the screen. Or in this example, I'm actually going to go and get value from a service. Now here is where I now go browse my service catalog, which was the service catalog that you saw in the previous demo with Mobile Cloud Service. So it's going to go and say, here are the services that you are authenticated to use. So I'm going to pick the Fix-It Fast incidents. And it then goes and discovers all the business objects. I'm going to select incident statistics. And now all I have to do is just drag and drop there.
And it's important to say that those services will also be able to include any services that are made with AuraPlayer. So if they make Oracle Form services, they'll be able to drag and drop the fields that were recorded from their form system as well. So Max will be able to integrate with the data fields from the forms recordings.
Right. So I'm not going to go through all of them because you get the points of where I did. I'm just going to show you a couple of quick other things here. I'm going to take the technician performance and drag and drop the y-axis, x-axis, and the technician here, and then pass the username as parameter and finish. And now you see the data being filled in. I'll do this quick thing for this data as well, and pick the medium over here. And what I wanted to quickly show you is, so then I have the data here, but my summary is still not filled in. So I can just click on this component, select, again, from a variety of different components, do the drag and drop of my list view, add data to that, select, again, the same incident object because the data source is still the same. And now I just drag and drop, for example, the priority I want the description of the work order, perhaps I want the status, I want the customer information. I don't have a customer name, so I'm going to drag and drop the first name and the last name, and that'll automatically concatenate, pick the create it on. And in the priority, it's an enumerated type, so I want to map it to some icons. So I can come in and say I want the low to look like this, and the high to look, normal to look like this. So, and I'll select the icon.
We're actually getting to the top of the hour, so yeah. We just wanted to
I'm done.
Okay.
Okay, so here's my app. I'm done with the two screens. If I just wanted to add a new create screen to this, I just click on this, automatically creates it. I don't need to do anything whatsoever. It's already pre-built. I can modify that screen a little bit, change the labels if you like. I can make it sort of justified. Come here and say I want the description field down here, and I want the description field to be like a text area instead of a box. And as I see it, the app starts then now building, right? So I'm just going to stop here and see if there are any questions. I think that was pretty much getting us to the end of the presentation anyway.
Yeah, so let's just put up the
Mia,
contact us information, so in case anybody wants to see where they could download. The Oracle Mobile Product Management team did some incredible videos. If you go to the YouTube Oracle Mobile channel, there's 4 different videos where they talk about the architecture of the solution. They step through case studies, and they talk about a little bit more in depth technically about building the services. So if you want to go through there, and you could visit AuraPlayer's website or oracle.com mobile for more information. And thank you all for joining us, and thank Suhas and his team for joining us today. And of course, Michael Ferrante is here as well if anybody has questions regarding any Oracle Forms based questions as well.
Yeah, thank you all for joining, and if you have any questions, feel free to contact us. We'll be happy to help you with the answers.
So
thank you, Mia.
There are people raising their hands, so I think people want access to demos. So we will be in touch with you. Anybody who asked for access to AuraPlayer instances for demos will get in contact with you separately. For the people that are raising their hands, you please just put your questions in the question box. Is it possible to run Oracle Forms applications and AuraPlayer on the Oracle Cloud? Michael, do you want to talk a little bit about Oracle Forms in the cloud?
Sure, we could cover a little bit of that, although it's pretty straightforward. So you can use Oracle's cloud to do your forms deployment. You would need a compute or infrastructure as a service environment to do that. You would do an installation not any different than you would do in your on-prem environment. As for the AuraPlayer component, it's entirely your choice and also based on what licensing you have, but you can install AuraPlayer into that IaaS environment, that infrastructure as a service environment, or alternatively you could use Oracle's Java Cloud service to deploy the AuraPlayer piece.
Yeah, so AuraPlayer is supported on Java Cloud Service, so you could for sure run AuraPlayer on Java Cloud Service to connect back to your on-premise Oracle Forms system. So there's no problem to run AuraPlayer on the cloud. So there's a question here, how to modify...
It's pretty straightforward, yes, in answer to your question. You can use cloud.
Yes. We see here there's a bunch of questions on pricing and licensing. We'll be happy to get in contact with you directly, but basically it's a subscription license and it goes per form server, and the cloud is licensed based on interactions. So both solutions are pretty much priced.
Mia, it's now licensed by the number of API calls from the mobile device to the back end.
Oh, great. Yeah, so in terms of pricing, we'll get in touch with you directly to see about sizing, but both Oracle Cloud as well as AuraPlayer, which is really nice, allow you to kind of grow as your application grows. So they both start out with the ability of having kind of AuraPlayer has a mobile trial where you could start off really small with just a development environment and grow as you wish, and Oracle Cloud now has a way of starting with a smaller cloud footprint and growing as your application does as well.
You can go to cloud.oracle.com under App Dev. You'll see mobile pricing and documentation. Everything is open, so no longer do you actually have to be a customer to get all that information. You can literally go to oracle.cloud.com and you can search under Platform, App Dev, Mobile. All that information is there, and you can also request a trial from there.
Great. So now there's a question, how do you modify the existing REST or SOAP services generated by AuraPlayer? Do they have to be recorded? So the REST services are recorded. You could modify the services inside AuraPlayer Service Manager. So you can make fields visible or invisible. You could delete fields. You're not able to add new input fields in the Service Manager. For that, you'd have to re-record the business process, but you can delete output fields, make output fields hidden, make input fields hidden, and things of that nature from within AuraPlayer's Service Manager, which is a browser-based tool that runs, as we said, either on WebLogic or Java Cloud Service. If a generated service by AuraPlayer is changed manually, the apps that consume the service need to be redeveloped or recreated. The truth is, if you change the service, obviously it depends what type of change you make, but again, this has nothing to do with AuraPlayer. It's the same question. If you change a REST service, will you have to change the app that's been created? The answer is most probably yes. If you delete an output parameter, it'll probably return a null value to your screen, so you probably won't have to redevelop it. If you delete an input parameter, you probably will have to change something on your screen. But again, that's kind of the beauty of what AuraPlayer service is. We provide a REST service, and the minute that that's a REST service, it behaves like any other REST service. There's nothing extra special. The extra special part is that we're able to build this REST service without any redevelopment to the Oracle Forms system. But the output is a completely generic REST service that plugs right into Oracle's mobile cloud. How do we keep track and version control the web services generated by AuraPlayer? AuraPlayer has the way of doing exports to the services. So each web service has the ability of, you basically just do an export of the service, and you could put those into SVN for the web services themselves. The only problem is that if you wanted to actually do version control of the full business process, you would have to version control the FMX of the form as well as the AuraPlayer web service together, right? Because AuraPlayer actually runs the form that is running in production. So if you stored the AuraPlayer web service today, but tomorrow you change the form, it would run the existing form in production. So you have to put both the Oracle form as well as the AuraPlayer web service definition together in version control. Is it stateful or stateless? That's what's great about AuraPlayer. It allows you to even work on an offline mode because we do not keep the Oracle Forms session open all the time. What happens is that you fill out the data in the Oracle, in your new application, your mobile application, and only when you click to save or query or to actually do the business process, then we go to the form system, we start the session, we do the business process from start to finish, we close the form session, and we return the output parameters. So it actually means that we don't need that forms connection open all the time, and it's very very good for performance. It allows you to do things like have things offline and then sync them back on later. So yes, it is stateless, if that was your question. So I think that's all the question. Oh, there's another one. How to keep track using a version control system for an application used with Oracle Math. So I think that's a question for you.
So with Mobile Cloud Service, we also have integration with our Developer Cloud Service, where we have integration into SCCS, into Git repositories, into all that. And so you could use that to, first, Mobile Cloud Service in itself has built-in version management for all the APIs and the artifacts that are part of Mobile Cloud Service. And if you're building any math app, that would be integrated, and you can integrate that as part of your Developer Cloud Service that can handle that as well.
Great. What about reports? Do we have to use BI Publisher? So Michael, I think that's one for you. He's still on?
Sorry, what was the question?
He asked, what about Oracle reports? Do we need to use BI Publisher?
Oh, well, that really has nothing to do with mobile or AuraPlayer, but with version 12 of Forms, I assume we're talking about, you have the choice of either Oracle Reports or BI Publisher. That's entirely your choice. So that's optional.
Okay. Ability to do automatic tests and continuous integration. Yeah, so with AuraPlayer, some people actually do take the services that we've created and they run them for automated QA and functional testing. It's a module we called Aura Tester, so we actually plug it into the same AuraPlayer Service Manager, and it could be used for continuous integration and testing. So if anybody has questions about that, you could ask us offline as well. Is there support for LOVs? Is there any comment that extracts the services from the LOVs? Yeah, so AuraPlayer does support LOVs. What actually happens is that we have the ability that when we're recording the service, as you saw, there's a way to do a stop, basically almost like a snapshot in the middle of a web service recording for the LOVs. It's called save and continue. So you'd actually do your recording. When you get to an LOV, you'd push the button to see the LOV. Then you'd push a button on the toolbar that does save and continue, and it would record a specific web service for the LOVs. It's not recommended if the LOVs are based just on a single table, obviously, to do a web service for each LOV. You could do direct query from the database tables if you'd like, but with AuraPlayer, we've done multiple systems with LOVs, and it's pretty simple. You just record one log web service. Each time you get to an LOV, you click the button Save and Continue, and it builds the web services for the LOVs. And what's nice is that when you use Oracle's mobile cloud service with the offline capability, what you could do is actually at the startup of the application have all of the LOV web services run, and they could actually load that data into the offline storage. So you could actually have the LOVs available on the tablet, so it doesn't have to go back to the Oracle form system each time there's an LOV. It could work offline for the LOV values and only go, let's say, once a day to load up the LOVs. Do we need one service for every form? No, we do not. As we said, it actually does not go one service for one form. Again, we have to think about it as a business process. So it could be that one business process goes through 25 forms, and it could be that one form has an insert, update, and delete, so it might need 3 business processes on a single form. So it's a little bit of a different way of thinking about your form system. Right now we think about forms as a physical representation of a form. And when you do microservices and mobile development, you have to think about mobile first, right? Who's going to be using your application in the field? What are they going to be using it for? What data points do they need to insert? What data points do they need to query? And then build our use cases in the form system, no matter how many forms it travels through. If an LOV data is cached in an offline database, when is it refreshed if a new reference value is added? You could actually decide. The LOV data could be loaded when somebody logs into the application. You could have a button that the LOV data is refreshed when the button is clicked. You know, you could really determine, you could do it based on a database trigger. You know, that's something that's based on your own application development. So there's nothing specific or a player about that. What control system have been used to develop MTA's mobile solution? If cannot say the name, please advise if some type of version control system has been used. Thanks. I'm not aware of what version control they used, but I think
the same thing as the developer service.
Cloud, right.
The same thing. We've answered that. It's using developer cloud service.
Yeah, I was about to say, I think it's 100. There it's all cloud-based. They use the Java cloud service, mobile cloud service. I think it's full cloud. Okay, great. So thank you, everyone, for joining. And again, if you have any further questions, feel free to email us. And if the questions are for Oracle, we'll be happy to pass them on. Thank you so much for joining us, Suhas and Michael of Oracle. And we look forward to doing a lot more interesting things with Oracle Forms and Oracle Mobile Cloud Service. So thanks a lot.
Thanks, Mia. Bye.